So that was interesting. So I had to do training in Florida. So they shipped us out there. We stayed in a hotel for 3 months. It was around the holiday times. So we kind of got like some days off too, right? So it kind of ended up working out nicely. But they give us materials to study a month prior. So we're just like, look, they have expectancy for us to know our flows or limitations on the aircraft just before the class date starts. So I ended up just setting up my paper tiger here on the wall, and I'll just be working the flows. And Sebastian came here, like, I think it was the day before he left, and we're doing flows. So we get there, we do the first week of indoc, and during that indoc section, we're just talking about things like weather, airspace, things like that. But like on our breaks, we're like practicing our flows and stuff. So we did a week of that, and then we went into like the touchscreen panels, right? So you're just like learning just the procedures, the SOPs, and then we have like a week to study systems, and we kind of go through the whole airplane system. We kind of got to take the airplane apart and put it back together, type of thing, right, Sebastian? We're going crazy going over those things, just like having like notes and stuff everywhere. But we made it happen. We did our CSIs, which is just like abnormalities, right? Like emergency procedures. And then after we learned those things, we went to FTDs, which is basically, okay, now you have the screen out there and you can see like the runway and yourself taking off.
It's the simulator without the motion.
Yeah, it's the simulator without the motion. And then we went to our full motion. We got like, what, 6 of those?
Yeah.
And me and him were like, there's no way we're going to pass this type, man. This feels crazy, like, because it's so much, you know what I mean? Like 6 simulators, I don't think that's enough. But it's all about trusting the process. And you're like, okay, by the 5th, we're like, yeah, we can do this, right? But like in the beginning, you're just like, man, how are we going to pass this type rating right now, man? This sounds crazy, but we did it. And we passed our type rating. And we did like, what's it called? Loft. And then, upset recoveries, things
so
like that.
Simulate an actual flight, and then you have like an emergency.
Yeah, we just had one emergency en route. Like one guy flies there, one guy flies back. So we kind of like switch seats. You guys do learn the captain flow too. So like one person's the captain, one person's the FO. You gotta need to know that because you guys are always rotating seats.
And then you forget the captain's flow when you get all on the line. So.
Yeah,
you're supposed to be checking their lights, and I don't remember what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, it happens. But yeah, so I mean, after we're done with our type rating, they sent us home. I think we got like 2 weeks off, and then we're on to IOE, which is just you're going with a check airman, and he's just making sure that you're good and you have the knowledge, and he's teaching you real world procedures. So flying a simulator is totally different than flying in real life, because in real life there's a lot of curveballs that's thrown at you, and things are a little bit different. So. Yeah, it was exciting. Finished IOE, then went to reserve. I've been reserved the whole time I was at Spirit, just because we didn't have anyone under us, and people weren't really moving forward either because of the attrition. But it was cool. I had a crash pad out there. I commuted from San Jose to Las Vegas, so my schedule would fluctuate. It would either be 6 days on, 4 days off, or it'll be like 4 days on, 4 days off in a month. So I'll get that time at home just to hang out. And then most of the time I was in Vegas, I was just waiting to get a call and say like, hey, come fly. And yeah, so when you get that call, you're happy. You're like, hey man, it's my turn. I got to go fly. And you end up across the country, and you're just going from different city to different city, spending overnighting. And you're always flying with a different captain, so it's not always the same conversation. So you guys are always kind of having a fun conversation. And everyone's really nice that I flew with. It was a good experience. So, which one of you guys want to go next?
I can go.
Okay, yeah. Kenny.
So I introduced myself earlier. I'm Kenny. I graduated from San Jose State Aviation. I'm local to the area of San Jose and currently work as a first officer at SkyWest Airlines for the better part of a year now. So to add on to like what Sebastian and Lucas were saying earlier, I would like to take like a quick survey of the room. How many here are commercial pilot and above? Just raise your hand. Okay. And how many are CFIs currently? Okay, how many of you CFIs have over 1,000 hours? Okay, and raise them high. Those in the back over there.
There we
All
go.
right, how many of you have your applications out? Okay, I think some went down. So on that point, we talked about differentiating our different paths in our career, right? Like, how do you differentiate yourself? The path that Sebastian had was very different. The path that Lucas had was very different. For me, going into aviation, I had pretty much no desire to be an airline pilot. I just thought planes were cool, and I knew I didn't want to work in the tech industry. So I sort of bumbled my way around through that, and I remember being very excited when SkyWest paid $32 an hour. They don't pay that now, but that's what they did at the time, and I thought that's more than I can make as a welder. I did not get into welding. I was not good at it. In the path of becoming a pilot, for those of you that are below commercial or looking into starting the journey, make sure you pick a good flight school. Make sure you pick a good instructor. Some of my instructors are not here at the moment, but one of them is Ting.
I'm like, one of them is the one that I hate the most. Is
And that is a good thing to hate your instructor, because you're not going to want to do training with them for much longer. They're going to push you out the door. You'll have your ratings, and then you'll be on to the next thing. That's probably going to be much more difficult. Thank you, Ting. But going from there to the CFIs and the commercial pilots that are in the room, Chirag, you're back there. What are the minimums for a regional to hire?
Pretty high right now.
No. What's the minimum for like restricted ATP? 1,500 hours, 75 instrument, 100 nights, and like what, 25 multi?
Yeah, 25.
All right, so those are minimums. That is the most least qualified you can be for that position. There are two other instructors back there. They are twins, Jonah and Noah. Could you stand up? No, keep standing, please. So you guys are twins. One might say you're better looking than the other one. We're not going to go there today. But I assume your hours are about the same, right? Yeah. Okay, so if I was a recruiter, Ting is a recruiter for JSX, how are you going to differentiate from each other?
He's older.
Well, they're twins. I mean, so it's a very minimal difference, right?
Personality.
Does one of you
Yeah.
maybe volunteer for anything? No. So that's what we're talking about, minimums. When we're looking to get into these jobs, there's going to be a lot of people, and they're going to be a twin of you on their requirements. They're going to have the same hours, they're going to have the same experience, and they're going to have the same story. I loved getting into flying. It's a great job. My dad did it. My uncle's brother's dog did it. And it's been my dream since I was a kid. You're going to have to find what your passion is that is going to be different from other people to explain why you're here today and how you're going to differentiate yourself with that. PAPA and Latino Pilot Association are both great organizations to be involved in. Mm-hmm. The organization I was involved in, National Intercollegiate Flying Association, was a great one if you're in collegiate aviation and you're in a college program. If you're in none of those, maybe look into something local. It does not necessarily have to be aviation, because I don't want to bag on any organization here, but then when we're talking about minimums you put in, and it's like I'm in all these organizations that everybody is part of. What is going to make you stand out? What is going to make Jonah stand out? What is going to make Taylor stand out, right? Find something that you can speak on. Sebastian also talks about interview prep, right? So for you CFIs out here that are looking into like getting into a job, I need to prepare. Well, it's not just about preparing for an airline interview. This is going to be possibly your first corporate job. So corporations in America speak a very different language than you and I. You know, there are things that I might say here today that could get me fired in a corporate environment. Those are things you want to avoid in an interview. So prep work, or having friends that have done the prep work if you don't want to pay for the course, can work very well. Lucas didn't quite touch on it, but we both interviewed at the same time for SkyWest. In fact, our interviews were an hour apart from each other. We spent the better part of a month and a half in this room filling up this entire whiteboard that's behind me with questions from the interview gouge that we had. We learned everything related to our plates for our instrument flying. We flew every day with each other doing instrument approaches. We flew in the multi to differentiate ourselves. So when I could go to the interview, I could nail every question because it is all competitive right now. It is based on points, and the person that gets a 99 out of 100 is the person that is told thanks but no thanks. And unfortunately, that's the situation that you're going to be in as a low-time pilot. So what can you do? I've asked my assistant chief at SkyWest. I've asked some of the captains that I fly with. Their responses are helpful or they're not helpful. And basically, in summation, what they said to me was fly good, don't suck. So how can I translate that to an audience? Well, for the pilots that are here, if you're going into an airline, we live in the Bay Area here. There's beautiful weather. It's very easy to get lazy. Fly with a friend, do instrument flying. Now, a Cessna is not an Airbus or a CRJ or an Embraer, but we can make it just as busy as one. File an IFR flight plan from San Carlos to Hayward at 2 o'clock on a Saturday, and you'll find out what it is to do the job. Make sure you brief everything, do a missed approach, and then go do another landing somewhere else.
That's harder than the Airbus, by the way.
That is harder.
Yeah,
than,
it is.
It's harder than my job currently, but if you can keep doing that, then when they put you in the sim and they light something on fire, you should be okay to deal with it. Now, to go back to the hiring, differentiating yourself, right? So we've decided fly good, don't suck. So there are things that we can do, such as fly 152, do a lot of instrument time with each other, stay after hours, study with a friend, build up each other. That is a big thing that the airlines and the 135 companies want to see. Nobody's hiring a first officer. They're hiring a captain. If you're a CFI, that is your first captain job. It is not just working with your student. It's leading your student to where they're going to be. It's working with the other instructors you have and leading them where they want to be. My interview prep, I spent a lot of it, and what helped me the most was helping Lucas get his job. I was invested in him getting the job almost more than I wanted the job. That's what they want to see out of you when you go to those interviews. When you go to the conferences, that's what they want to see. They want to see somebody that is going to step into that captain role and is going to take that leadership position. So, aside from these organizations, what can we do locally? We can fly. We can find local things to participate in. I participated in outreach to keep the airport open. That's a leadership activity. When you're asked in an interview, tell me about a time you had a difficult captain. Well, I fly at a really good company. My captains are really not that difficult. They're pretty nice people and they're helpful. But I need to talk on something that was a conflict resolution. So working in a volunteer organization, your job at Subway, whatever, as a CFI, think about where those conflicts are. Start making a list of things that you can write down and put a story together, rehearse it, and that will help you out when it comes time to do these interviews. And it is not just airlines, all right? You want to go work at Aperture and Flighter 206, it's 500 hours. That's the minimum amount of time. Most of you CFIs in here have more than 500 hours, and it's to walk down the street to apply. How many applications do you think they have on that desk? More than you think. More people with more time than you. So you need to show to them, you know, how do I differentiate? Time is just the simplest way, but there are other ways to do it.
Yeah, they're very big on culture and personality.
Yeah.
Very big on culture.
Right.
That's like 90% of that.
And when you volunteer in these local type of aviation events, even with LPA or PAPA, because they do a lot of local work too, you're going to get to know those people. You're going to get to know people, maybe the Aperture people or somebody from Airflight or Empire Cargo, one of these jobs that are, you know, to get you to an airline. Is not going to be there, but somebody is going to know somebody that's going to know somebody that's going to be there. And a short story from a captain that I just flew with. He's one of my favorite captains, but his first job in a jet was an Learjet. And it wasn't his first job, but it was his best job working in corporate charter. He got that job because he was at SkyWest. And when he went in there, a friend referred him, and the guy was like, oh, you were at SkyWest, and I know this guy. That's great. When can you start? There wasn't an interview. There wasn't anything. People want to see that you're not going to damage their, you know, $1 million worth of equipment. Yeah. 172 out there is about, over $100,000. So even for a CFI job, if you guys happen to go somewhere else to relocate and see what other jobs are out there, you need to be ready to interview with them.
That's right. Yeah, personality is a big thing, guys. I mean, I can give an example. My Allegiant interview, they didn't ask me anything about flying at Spirit. They didn't go into like, oh, tell me about a time you did this. They actually looked at my resume and they were like, oh, you were a car salesman. You're more intrigued about that. they're like, oh, how did you do with customers? Like, just tell me about that. And they kind of want to see like how you are as a person and how you deal with conflict. They want to just to see like how you handle yourself and how you carry yourself.
Seeing you work as a recruiter, I've seen that. Is that something, that whole person concept, is that something that you look for?
So I represent JSX at Papa conferences. After I got hired, the first year at Papa conference, that's the reason why I got hired. Second and third year, JSX sent me back to be a pilot recruiter there to talk to people, whoever that comes to a booth, and I'll be the one that greet them, answer questions, mark your resume to maybe tell the recruiter, take a look into this guy's application, or maybe this guy is or girl is not really the one that you want to take a look right now, and how to differentiate that. That's why going to these conferences, you have to be 100% prepared. Don't think that I'm just there trying to just walk around and see what's out there. What's the swag? Can I get the swag here? Can I get the swag there? You have to do research, and then how do I distinguish this person is good, that I want to put some good work, or maybe this person I'll just put it on the side, is how well do they know about our job? If you walk up and say, can you tell me about JSX? I say, I'll be like, okay, I could tell you, but I'm here to answer your question, not like giving a presentation to you, right? So to be able to better present yourself at these conferences, doing some background research about these companies before you go, it's very important.
And on that, the background research, it's more than just looking at the company's website. What is their mission statement? What is their values, right? It's more like, what are they looking for in a pilot? What are they looking for in a captain? And the best way to do that is to actually find those people and talk to them in person. And if you can't do that, maybe LinkedIn or Facebook, join a group and just like message people. And it's weird to just slide into their DMs like that, but it works. When I was at Papa, there were some recruiters that I talked to, and I can tell you that one of the biggest ways I differentiated myself is when I talked to these recruiters, I wasn't like, hi, I have unrestricted ATP and so many hours in the jet, and I don't want to be at the regional at the moment, and I want to see what you have. They were very interested when I talked to them about their local area. I'd ask them things like, well, you live in this base. How is the culture in the base? How are the pilots that you work with? Is this a good place to, move to? Like, I talked to them about things like that, showing that I had a genuine interest in the company, in the base, and working there in the operations. I wasn't just like, looking to just build up to the next step. And mostly that's because I was being genuine, but you need to be genuine. You need to find a reason to get into that operation.
Nothing to add to that. So when you go to an interview, one thing I tell people I mentor is an interview is almost like a check ride. Check ride, you go in there with an open book. You can use any resource, but also it's not so much like a big test. It's a conversation. When you interview with these companies, they want to see that you're someone that they'll enjoy talking to in a cockpit. Because that's the whole point. They already know you fly. They already know that you have this many hours involved. They want to know, oh, maybe you play golf, maybe you travel, you're a crew, you're something. They want to know more about your personality.
Yes.
And whether they're going to enjoy sitting with you for hours on end in a cockpit with a confined box, so to speak.
Yeah. And
then that you can actually relate to other members of the crew. They would enjoy working with.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, my SkyWest interviewer, man, we're bonded over cats owners. And we literally spent 25 minutes talking about cats.
And that's a big part of it.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's a good sign for an interview if you're not really talking about.
Yeah, you don't want to be sitting in the interview talking about like approaches for 45 minutes, because that's where they're going to get you. Talk about cats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's all about bonding, right? I mean, you guys are probably going to find a common interest. Just be yourself and know what you're saying, right? Just kind of like rehearse. Like me and him, we spend countless hours just sitting in a classroom going over, other resources is aviationinterviews.com. In case you guys are not familiar with that, you guys will find a lot of interview questions on there. And sometimes most of these interviews are verbatim, right? They're just asking questions out of those things, and just become familiar. Be yourself, see how you can stand out, pick a good story that you guys have, right? Like maybe you guys had an emergency in flight. Like, how's the outcome of that? It was a good outcome. Then talk about that, right? Maybe if it was like, oh yeah, I didn't run any checklist. I didn't do anything like this, but I landed safely. You don't want to do that. You want to talk about something that's good, right? That's going to make you look good. And yeah, everything that he's saying is true. And Sebastian, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to add, since we're on the subject of interviews, is
Mhm.
a good point is to get the person's name, remember it, get their card if you can, get their email, and the very next day, going too long, is send out a thank you email for, oh, hey, it was great coming out. I met you at the RTAC convention. In fact, I'm doing that today. I talked to somebody yesterday.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, it was great to meet you, and just keep making the connection. Link them on LinkedIn, send the email, send a thank you email after every interview, send a thank you email, and
Yeah.
it just like makes a little note in their brain that they remember you, that you're a pleasant person. Because what Scott was saying is also, he touched on something very important, which is they know we can all fly. They know you show up with the hours and the ratings, and you can fly. They just want to see if you can get along in the flight deck with somebody, and that's very important. Part of
Yeah.
For me personally, I mean, that squeaky wheel gets the grease. I mean, that's what landed me my current job. Is I got the contact of the interviewer. The recruiter was slammed with applications and wasn't, available to be, responding to my questions. And I finally just was like, well, I'll just interview or email the guy that interviewed me. I had already sent him a thank you, so there was a bit of a, rapport there. And he was just like, oh yeah, look, well, here's a class.
Yeah.
I got the class date, right? Just from going to the interview. It's a bit unconventional, but I mean, what do you got to lose?
and
Yeah.
I'm sure you're very pleasant to find it.
Yeah. And
I hope so. Oh yeah.
yeah. And I mean, recently, when I applied to Allegiant, as soon as I put my application in, I emailed Pilot Recruitment and I sent them like a cover letter, and I told them like, hey, I really admire your company and I really hope I get a chance at that. I did it before I even got the interview. And I kept checking in every 2 weeks. I was like, hey, following up on my application, how's it looking in the horizon? They would actually be pretty responsive. They're like, we're working out class dates, we're trying to figure out things, and then we're probably going to come up with interview dates. We'll keep in touch with you. So I mean, I just kept poking them. I was just like, come on, give me something.
Yeah.
But yeah, and 10 minutes after my interview, I sure typed in that email thanking them, and I got the call the next day. Real fast.
People will be very doubtful, like it's a lot of money going to the conferences. But I would say that's how I got the job at JSX, and I believe that's how I'm gonna get the next job that I want to go. So a quick example, just on the way when I was picking up pizza at Costco, one of the recruiter from one of the company just sent an email. I'm not at RTEC. You went to RTEC,
No.
but they're like, "Hey, Ting, are you gonna come to the event? Me and who was there? And then I'm wondering if you're gonna show up. We could hang out." And then that is because of the previous conference for this year. Every single one up to this RTEC, I wasn't able to go, but every single one of them, I invest my time, I put in the work, I'm there networking, not purposely like trying to get a job, but just that genuinely trying to present myself, and also volunteer at every single conferences so that the recruiter get to see a different aspect of you. That's a natural way to show your face multiple times to the recruiter. So as Kenny mentioned, I am pilot recruiter for JSX at Papa Conference. You'll be surprised how many people just wander around the booth for no reason, just trying to engage in another conversation again and again. And then guess what? The dinner that night will be like, hey, do you remember? Did you notice that guy that was kind of weird coming to our booth so many times and engage in some really non-meaningful conversation? And then that's the way that's a bad way to present yourself. But how I present myself to catch the recruiter's eye, not like I have something successful story to share at this moment, but for them to remember me is, okay, I talked to them. Later on, I volunteer. Recruiters go to those dinners. Well, they see me again. I'm volunteer at the check-in booth. They see me again. They see me again and again at the conference in a natural way. So through time, they recognize your name. And then now they naturally think that I'm going to be at this conference, which unfortunately I cannot make it. So I was surprised to see that email. They're even checking on me to see I'm there or not. So just another success story. I got hired by JSX because of the first conference I go to. Am I discouraged now going to all these conferences and still not being able to move forward? No, I'm not discouraged. Just because of that email that I got. That's a huge encouragement to me that, hey, okay, I'm doing something right. People are starting to notice me. They know that I'm devoting to the community. Even that email to respond, tell them, hey, I'm so sorry I cannot make it. I'm doing this today. Same thing, just to put some score on your application. I I'm doing something better for the community, right? So that's how you could make you yourself stand out to the recruiters, and then hopefully one day the good thing will happen.
Can you talk about score of application? I heard you use that word.
So score your application. I don't review applications, but from like the interview prep companies or from other people saying they will put score on your interview. They'll put score on your application. The airlines, yeah. So the more that you volunteer, the more organization you involve in, not just being a member, paying your annual fee. It's like coming out, doing work, actually putting something to the table to help promoting the organization. Those are the things that you could put on your application, and those are the things that you will stand out.
What are some of the other things for the application score?
So application score, your ratings is another thing, right? Getting your gold seal CFI, getting more instructor rating because you could check more boxes, right? And then I would say it's the volunteer work that is really, really huge.
And the meet and greet.
And the meet and greets, yes. Like Sebastian said earlier, they actually keep track on how many times you talk to them. Like this person talked to me 0 times. I just have that application in with a bunch of hours and experience. Compared to this person, show their dedication, talk to us at so many events, and then now we learn that who this person is, what great works that this person have done to the company. Who do you think they're gonna hire? Surprisingly, is the one that they already know, right? Because they already know this person compared to this person with a lot of experience. They might be good, but I still don't know them. So the recruiter will actually go to the one that, okay, they already know. So hopefully something good will come, and then I could share another success story, but just little thing that you do time to time. I know there are a lot of frustration. Every time I come back from a conference, I'll be like, oh man, this time nothing came. But I make some more good friends. I make some good friends here. I make some good friends there. And then they're all the same people going to these conferences, all the same recruiters. So if you go there, they don't remember you again and again and again. Eventually they will.
Yeah, make a presence.
It's a small industry.
It's a very
It
small
is,
industry.
man. Yeah, don't get discouraged, man. Everyone has either a better background or a same background or a different background than you are, but you will stand out as a person in the cockpit, man. I met people who flew F-22s. I'm just like, I was just a CFI. You know?
You'll be surprised. We have astronauts in our company.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
even told that American Airline used to ask, were you an astronaut before? Then if they click that box, how are you going to compete with that astronaut?
Right?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That is through personal
Uh-huh.
connections, right? They already know you compared to that astronaut, but I know you as a person. I know what you've done. I know you want the job.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, me and Kenny, we were at Papa. We're standing in line, waiting to
I
talk
was
to
about to-
Frontier. Yeah, we're talking to Frontier, and we're trying to chat with the guys in the line. We're just like, oh, hey, how's it going? Blah blah blah. My name is so and so. And I was like, oh, I'm Lucas. Nice to meet you. And they're like, oh, what do you do? Oh, yeah, I'm a first officer on the Airbus at Spirit. I'm looking for a job here at Frontier. And I'm like, how about you? And he's like, oh, I'm a CFI. And then they got this, like, they just walked out of the line. We're just like, no, man.
It's like, come back.
Yeah, we're like, come back. Like, this doesn't mean like I'm here to take your job. Like, they're offering jobs for everyone. It doesn't matter. As long as you put yourself out there and you're a good person to talk to, it's not all about ratings always. So there's always an opportunity. You know what I mean? Don't get discouraged. If someone has 4,000 hours, right? Still put that application in, go to the interview, be the best of yourself.
And also get involved in your current company. So you mentioned about how to put more score on your application. Okay, I do all these volunteer works, but when I engage with a recruiter trying to like talk about yourself, talk about what you've done, the thing that stands out is I involve in other stuff within JSX as well. Okay, I'm a full call gatekeeper. I'm on pro stands. I'm an airport information guide manager. So on top of my regular role, captain for JSX, I have other 3 titles that I do for the company that involve in different aspects of the company. And that usually catch the recruiter's eyes because everyone could be a pilot somewhere, but this individual will do more work. Some are volunteer work, some are paid work. It doesn't matter. You put in extra time for this company to try to grow yourself, right? And then that will show your future employer that, hey, maybe this person that joined us, he or she would also be able to contribute more, not just being a pilot, but willing to do more.
Yeah, I did throw that in my interview. I was like, hey, I'm a flight instructor. I do enjoy teaching. I did ask them questions. I was like, how soon can I join the training department? I was like, can I go in as a first officer and work in base and going teaching at the sims, right? Because that's something I like to do more than just being a line pilot. And also it's great because if you wanted to do that on the holiday, let's say you want to take holiday with your family, you want to have like a regular 9 to 5. That's a nice thing where you can put yourself into and go into the training department for that time, or just throughout the year, or just being part of a recruitment, right? And on the airline team. So there's many things you can do within the company, as Ting is saying here. But make sure, I mean, if you guys are interested in that, just bring that aspect and ask them questions about that too.
Yeah, even as a CFI, do more for the flight school, right? Maybe get into replying emails, or volunteer to be at the front desk, or I don't know, host some events at the flight school to put some more score at the table for the recruiter to be able to say, okay, looks like this candidate is better, even though they have the same hour. Maybe this one is a better one that we want to talk to you first.
Yeah.
Obviously,
That's
if
true.
you don't present yourself well, then they will go to the other person. But you need to, out of thousands of people, how do you stand out? And I think that's the way.
That's true. Yeah.
Anything to show initiative and leadership. Two big things.
Yep. There's always something you can do.
I utilized a application review company
Mm-hmm.
when I was getting ready for the majors, and I've been over my application, I don't know, 100 times. And I thought, oh, everything's nailed out, it's perfect. And I hired an application review company. And when they came back and they circled in red all the little small, tiny errors or inconsistencies that I had, I'm thinking, I went over this application so many times. They'll find it. And those are the kind of mistakes that'll get your application kind of tossed aside, because I'm not willing to put in the effort and the attention to detail to make sure that instead of street, I use the abbreviation, but the next line I use the full word street. Those types of attention to detail, that's what Airline is looking for. The other thing, now that we're talking about interviews and getting the job, it's very uncomfortable to talk about yourself, to boast about yourself. But in essence, you got to do that. Kenny, that was awesome. That example you used with the two
Twins.
great. I mean, that couldn't have been, perfect. Because everybody is the exact same. So how are you going to make yourself somebody different? What's going to bring you to the next level? Cross that line. I think that was great. So you got to learn to talk about yourself, and it's not comfortable. I hated that. That was probably the most uncomfortable time period of my career, is looking for a job, interviewing for a job, talking about yourself. But the more you do it, you'll practice it, you'll rehearse it, you get a lot better with it. I hired Cage Marshall, and they were great. They taught you techniques about how to explain scenarios, how to know yourself, and those techniques carry on for different airlines. I had interviews with Alaska, Delta, and United, and I just pulled different elements, what I needed to pull based on what I learned from that interview prep. So I'm sure I'll have a chance to talk to you guys a little bit later, but yeah, that was kind of some of the insight for that discussion that we're having right now about getting to that job, or pushing to that next level.
Absolutely. Okay. Scott, you want to say something?
And to add on to that point about just practicing and talking about yourself and putting yourself out there. When I was preparing for an interview, I ended up using Emerald Close Consulting, which is another great interview prep. One of the best things about that company was something called a rapid fire. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. It's essentially you. It's you and about 6 other people on a webcam talking to each other with a proctor, and you're practicing your interview questions. Best thing is you don't know these people, and these are people going for majors or going for cargo. I was the only CFI in that group, but one of the best things about it is they're not judging your answers; they're taking them in, and they're seeing how your techniques that you use to basically tell your story. And the other thing with that is you get to see their techniques. You get to see, okay, that's how something I can adapt to my own. Maybe I can shorten this. Maybe I can add a little more flair to that. Keeping everything true, but just using that. And I use that when I was flying sometimes. Don't judge me on that. But I would take my phone anywhere. And just, if I had a break, I do a rapid fire for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And I would just practice just speaking to these people. And that got me more and more comfortable talking to someone who I didn't even know at first, how I could try and relate to them. So,
Yeah.
that was great prep for me.
That's true. Yeah, man. I mean, this interview prep stuff is great, man. I used Spitfire for myself to help me prepare for Spirit Airlines. Guys, you're spending $700, right? For you at the moment, you're gonna look at it and you're gonna be like, man, this is expensive. Like, but the way I look at it, it was an investment because I got that $700 back like that, right? Because as soon as you get the job, man, you make a lot of money, so you're not gonna miss it.
I
It's an
used
investment.
Cage Marshall as well
Mhm.
for SkyWest, and the prep is very helpful, especially as I said earlier, that if you're not used to like going into corporate America and how those interviews are conducted, just decide, like, even if you are, you know, great at talking about yourself, right? You really want to know what the language that these corporations, you know, speak. You want to understand how, you know, are you going to answer the questions? You don't want to sound like a robot either. So even if you're maybe not going to pay for prep courses, you don't have the money right now as a CFI, I encourage you to save for it and then do it. But in addition, there are other ways to look outside the box. Public speaking, there's lots of public speaking groups out there that you can attend. Go talk about, I don't know, dinosaurs or some sort of interest that you have at these events. Just getting out there, talking, listening to how you sound.
Yeah, that's right.
I use
I-
Spitfire as well, and then looks like everyone. How to say that? Everyone can say some sort of story, but according to, we're talking about points, right? There are a story that gives you point at the interview. There's a story that maybe deduct point or doesn't give you point at the interview. And then the good thing with these companies is they are not trying to change what you're supposed to say, but they're going to give you suggestion. Hey, maybe you should say this story instead. Like they'll be like, there are some other things happen before, right? Tell me. And then they're going to try to tell you that maybe the other story would be better, and then maybe how to phrase it better. They're not trying to change you to a robot trying to say the same thing to every company. They just try to improve your speaking skill. Pretty much.
That's right. Yeah. And another thing is, guys, the skeleton in the closet, right? I mean, we all have them. We all have these things that we got to talk to them about, whether it's check ride failures, right? Accountability is actually a big thing they look into. They want to see that you're able to be accountable for your mistakes and be able to own up for, like, let's say you failed a check ride, right? And you don't want to say like, oh man, it was a DP's fault. I totally had it. Like he was just like looking on his phone. I touched on the touchdown zone. You don't want to say that, right? You got to be able to say, hey man, that was a learning experience, right? I learned from it. This is what I learned from it. And then this is how I'm going to prepare for my next check rides, right? That kind of like, you just kind of got to be able to give a good answer. No one has a perfect record, right? So that's another thing with getting hired, right? You're going to get asked that question and be ready to answer that question.
I think there was a question.
So
Mm-hmm.
I work at Southwest. I used to be at SkyWest and CFI still active. But one thing I'm going to tell you is you will not have every perfect interview. I interviewed multiple times to get into other carriers, one of which I didn't study hard enough for, and I didn't do an interview prep and didn't get the job. I myself had to apply to Southwest twice to get the job, and I was a captain already at SkyWest, like many other people. Don't get discouraged if you don't get the job. CFIs, I know you've probably heard of so many people going from CFI, flying at Regional View or any of the other GA airports, going to a regional, and they don't finish. It's not the end of your career. I have seen a guy, one of my classmates from college, didn't make it through at one regional, went to a different regional. He's now flying a 787 at United. And I'm flying a 73, which is awesome, but his journey went a different way. But one thing, which, because I still mentor CFIs, and I'm about to do it again, every year I do it, every time I do it, every time you talk to someone, treat every time you talk to another pilot as an interview prep. But don't get discouraged if you don't get the job, because the only way you can do is bounce back up. You have students, we're all CFIs here, majority of us, thought you're working towards CFI, double I, and MEI. You're not going to have a perfect flight every time. You got to do the same thing for yourself. Don't give up. The most important thing is just keep that motivation going. And if you do lose it, it happens. Go fly for fun. Go hang out with someone. I'm still here flying to GA airport, and you don't see me stopping. But the most important thing is don't give up on that aspiration. That's why I love talking to CFIs. Because I was going to ask them, not what's your best flight, what's your favorite place to do, it's what's the worst day you've ever had as a CFI? How'd you bounce back up? Some people have said, oh, it's because I failed a student. Some people say it's because I did something bad. I myself, I'm not perfect. I've been in an accident, but I share that story and I talk about it.
Good.
I've an NTSB accident. What did I do? I worked my way through. I did the process. I explained myself and I learned from that mistake. I got a job at SkyWest. I got a job working at Southwest. Things can get better. Most important thing is don't give up just because you've had a failed check ride or so you've had a phone call from the FAA or something. The most important thing is just stay positive. Keep going to these organizations. I myself am a member of PAPA. I'm a member of NGPA. And I try and support as many of the other organizations as I can. And I'm seeing your guys' faces all the time. I saw you. Oh man, I remember you right in front of United. I remember you just calling them out. That's the thing though, is I still been going to the road shows and I started doing it from 21. I got hired at the regionals at 19. But I still go. And I already have the job, which is awesome. But I'm not going because I'm trying to get another job. I'm going because I want to encourage the next generation of pilots who are here. I mean, heck, sorry, buddy, we threw you on the bus. That's my old student right there. I did his first flight. And now look at it. He's great. CFI and all this. The most important thing is don't give up. That's why I love seeing rooms like these. I love hearing CFI stories. That stuff happens. The most important thing is bounce back up. That's what we do. Unless you break the wing spot, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
So just keep rushing. So sorry, that's my answer.
Along that
thanks,
vein
Doug.
of not giving up, and this is something I heard specifically about Southwest, maybe you can confirm.
Sure.
That you go, you interview, you get thanks but no thanks, and you do it again, and you do it again, and then they kind of this score system, and then they're like, okay, this guy really wants to work for us.
Well, and so here's the big thing. Let's say you did it to the interview again. I did. I got an email that says try again in 12 months.
Okay.
And then they said, whoa, no, actually it's 6 months. Someone told you the wrong thing. I was like, you guys must really not like me. Well, and I told them that at NGPA in March of last year. And they said, well, keep trying. So then I went over to Papa in June. And they said, actually, we changed it from 6 months to 3 months.
Oh.
And so you gotta just keep trying. And when I interviewed a second time, they asked me, so what did you do wrong in the first one? I said, I'll be honest with you. I was a train wreck. I didn't get a good night's sleep. I was nervous. So what did you do differently today? I locked myself in a hotel room for 12 hours so I could sleep for at least 10 in a dark room. But the most important thing is they want to see you improve. They want to see how you've changed. Going back into what you guys were all saying about the interviewers and all the people at the groups and all, I walk over to the United booth. I'll walk over to the SkyWest booth. I know all the people who are there. I know the people from the JetBlue booth, etc., because they remember me from the year prior. I'm not trying to get a job anywhere else. I'm just trying to have fun and just network. And the most important thing is, hey, so what's going on? What does CFIs need to do to move on here? Because we all have that one spark when you're a student pilot, want to be CFI, want to be here, want to be there. Can't be there unless you start here. So yeah, just make yourself know.
Another thing is you
Awesome.
talked about skeletons, and I just wanted to say, don't get speeding tickets, don't get into accidents,
Yeah.
don't get in trouble with the law.
No DUI.
No, you guys know that.
Social
So
media lives forever.
yeah.
Your
Careful
online,
what you post on.
yeah, your online presence is crucial. I mean, they're looking at that stuff, and so don't go off the deep end with whatever it is online.
I think I need to tell people about like JSX opportunities. So there are many ways to go to your ultimate dream. Either it's flying for a corporate job, flying for a 135 job, flying for 121 world. Different route will get you to your ultimate goal. There is no one single best route. My route that I'm taking is very different than them that's taking regional airline or you, right? You don't go directly to Spirit, right? So the route that I could share my own experience is I got hired at JSX when I had about 1,200 hours, which at that time I have zero idea that I'm gonna apply to JSX. My only thinking is I'm gonna get 1,500 hours as soon as I can, and I'm gonna go to SkyWest because I live here, and then hopefully go to my ultimate dream. And then just one of my colleague, Joseph, he come to me and said, "Have you ever considered JSX?" I'm like, no, I don't know about JSX. They show up on my social media. I thought those jobs are for people that have way more experience, and say, no, I think you actually qualify. So I look into it and see, oh, I actually qualify. Papa, the very first Papa 2022 was just a week away. I didn't have ticket at that time, but I'm like, no matter how expensive the ticket is, no matter how expensive the hotel is, I'm gonna go to the event. I'm gonna talk to JSX, and then I didn't even have my application in, which is a mistake. I'm not gonna suggest you all do that. But I went to the event. I talked to the recruiter. Recruiter say we have a pretty decent, pleasant conversation because I researched about the company. Brandon was the recruiter. Told me put in the application today. I'm gonna get you the interview next week, and then hopefully class by the end of the month. And then I put in application that night. Got a call from Brandon the next day. Interview following week. Class day was 2 weeks later. So the decision of trying to apply for this job to the point where I actually get a job was like within a month. This is a crazy story, right? So, but what I'm trying to encourage you all is look for different paths, right? Right now, maybe the regionals are not hiring. Maybe there are 135s that are hiring. Maybe they're aero survey. There are a lot of opportunity out there. Diversify your experience. And then ultimately, you could still build up your experience to go to that dream. And then even though that 1 month getting to interview, getting to class day, that's like almost impossible to a lot of people. But that's telling me that when the industry is going, it's going like this. And then unfortunately, right now, that's not the speed for the industry. It was 2 years ago when I got hired by JSX. They're taking it almost everyone on the street, just like a lot of other 121 airlines as well. Yeah. But right now it's just the downtime. And then so far, every company that I've talked to seems like they're pretty optimistic about next year. Everything they need is just for their new aircraft to arrive. They need new aircraft so that they can hire people. Otherwise, if they hire more people, they're just going to furlough more people. That's right. So if the if the 121 world is hiring, then the regional world will start hiring. Then maybe the people want to get to flight school to teach at the flight school, they will still hiring as well. Because now I tell myself, being a pilot recruiter at JSX, how appreciate that I have my current job. Because being at the conference, people are lining up trying to get to my position. Now thinking that you have a job as a CFI trying to build time while getting paid. Right. There are some people out there getting their CFI license now, struggling, trying to find a place to work. Yeah. Right. That was me when it was COVID time. There was no one hiring. But what you could tell yourself is to do your research, build your time, build your experience, trust the process. If you have the hour when the timing is right, then the story that happened to me might happen to you, because at that time you were qualified, and then things will just move on like that. Yes, so consider other opportunities. Right now, JSX, unfortunately, is not hiring for first officer, but things just changed like the next day. So anything can change. So far, our requirement is 800-hour total time and 50-hour multi-time. Consider that, right? Home base, I go home every night. I have minimum overnights. I have some charter work, which last week I just chartered Green Day. I don't know if you all know who Green Day is, but we get to spend 5 days with them. They gave us VIP ticket to their concert. We took pictures with them. We shake hands. Seems like the flight attendant was having fun partying with them back in the cabin. So, different job will get you different experience, and these experience become story where you could tell the recruiters when the time comes, right? Because talking about where you're at, why you haven't reviewed my application. Like my application has been there for a month. Why it's not my turn yet? This is like the worst question ever, right? Just because your application is there doesn't mean that they have to take a look at your application, but you want to get involved in some other different stuff and try to engage in a conversation where they get interested.
That's right.
Yeah. So then I don't even have my application with JSX, but the conversation went well. They even asked me to apply, and then they pull me out. I have people in my same interview class, they have application in for 2 years, right? So don't do something that I did. Have your application in before you talk to the recruiter. But yes, Sebastian.
I just want to add about, like, your application is in, and I was talking about LinkedIn before. Another thing that I do on LinkedIn is stalk people. It's terrible, but you see who the people are. You see the HR department. You see who's in pilot recruiting. Slide into the DMs. I mean, it's not unheard of. They're not going to be surprised. When you click to connect, there's an opportunity for 200 characters. Write something meaningful, like, hey, I'm really excited about this company, and I don't know if you're the right person to talk to. And then sometimes you'd be surprised. You get a response, and I have an example. I had applied for Airlines, and they have like an AI that like looks at your application, and they're like, "Oh, thanks, but no thanks." And I was just like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't accept that." So I went on LinkedIn and messaged people from HR. I just wrote to the pilot recruitment. I wrote to the chief pilot, and I waited a month, and I thought it was gone, and then sure enough, I got an interview, and I got thanks but no thanks.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, the stalking on the recruiter is not, I don't want to say that, but you want to do some research before the conference, right?
Yeah.
I go to the conference,
That's
I
right.
see people, let's say, I don't know, JSX booth. Okay, I know this guy is the recruiter, this guy is the pilot. I already know who they are. So being strategic about who you're going to talk to, right? You want to pick the important people to talk to. So I go to the United booth, I go to the American booth, I go to Delta booth, I go to Southwest booth. I already know, like, okay, this guy is the director of pilot hiring. This guy is the head of HR, right? You want to be strategic, right? This is about your ultimate goal, getting your dream job. You got to put in the effort to do some research, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, for the CFI guys, man, like walking at Papa, I'll see airlines that I've never heard of before. I bumped into these guys. They're called Plain Sense. They fly PC-12s. That'll probably be something you guys might want to probably look into, get that turbine time. And I mean, most majors right now, such as Spirit or Allegiant, they want to see at least 100-hour turbine time. So if you can go and get 100 hours and try to come over to a major, that's one way to do it too. So just keep in mind, there's a lot of 135s.
I got a question.
Yeah.
For the 135 and 91 market, I know it's kind of works a little different than one carriers. Is there any advice about like websites or other places that kind of organize jobs listings rather than just like going on LinkedIn?
Well,
Like finding who's hiring.
okay, well, for job listings for 91, 135, because I myself was looking at one point once I got the forload news, was jsfirm.com. So you'll find a lot of 91 and part 135 there. And then also you can look onto Facebook groups too, like corporate pilot jobs. Just look into those and you might be able to find something. Yeah.
Conference, right? If you cannot go,
Yeah.
just find the exhibitors, right? The list of the exhibitor and then do research. This company, I don't know what they are, right? So look, oh, maybe it's a 135 that hires people with 500 hours of time, right? And then you could see, okay, there are so many companies that I'm interested to talk to. Then you go to the conference. Or if you don't have the budget, then at least you do that research. You see those lists are the company that goes to the events, right?
You can also even go on Wikipedia and just see, like, okay, San Jose Airport, and it'll list like these are the cargo companies, and then it'll list like whatever. I don't know about San Jose, but like Advanced Air or whatever 135 that are doing, flights out of that airport, and so that could be a good resource just to get in your head the names of companies, and then you go from there, go to the website, and you just become aware of what companies even exist or that are out there that might be hiring a more low-time person.
Or just come to these social and talk to people. Now you learn about JSX, you
Yeah,
learn
okay.
about PlanSense, you learn about someone from different company. And then I could tell you that at the conference, there are a company like Advanced Air, or there are a company like Thrive. I just told Angela about that. There are a lot of opportunities just by word of mouth. The more you come out, the more you talk to people, the more you will know about these things.
That's true. I've actually helped four of my students get jobs already. I take people or I recommend them to go to Oshkosh. People hear about Oshkosh as an air show, but they don't always hear about is a career fair. I just went this last year. There were 120 companies that were there hiring. That's a mixture of both civilian and also military. I met pilots that came from, believe it or not, Germany, that came in and they got hired, which was crazy to me. But yeah, I always try to tell people that you can go there if you can, but also, like you said, Tane, they have like a massive brochure which lists every single company from A to Z, and they'll always include a reference of where they're from. So whether which state, what their number is, and that's one of the best resources I've found. If you want to just get a job, get an idea of the market out there.
That's true. And Antonio,
Yes.
we'll love to hear your story, man.
No.
And this guy's living through it all, man.
My name is Antonio Fuentes, first officer for United Airlines, flying the 777 currently now. But I think my story is more of like endurance story, perseverance, and I guess the importance of having a backup plan, which pilots are very familiar with. But yeah, it took me almost 30 years to get to United Airlines, but I finally made it, and I'm happy. That's exactly what I wanted to do since I was basically in your shoes. I started flying in 1996 with San Jose State. I was a student at San Jose State at the Flying 20 Flying Club. Got my private pilot in 1997, so that was last century. And I knew, oh yeah, this pilot shortage is coming just around the corner. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm probably going to be, at United in the next couple of years, and everything's going to be great. But everything in this industry is not always great. I did all my flight training. The rest of my flight training, I said, okay, I kind of pieced it together to get my private pilot certificate and started doing a little bit of my instrument. And I thought, well, this isn't very effective for my goals. My goal is to get to that major airline as quick as I can. So as soon as I graduated in 2000, I got a loan from my mom's house, basically, pulled out all the money from their equity and plopped it down at the flight school in Fresno. A lot of faith on her behalf, but she knew that I was dedicated. I wanted to do that. 2001 in September, we knew what happened then, and the entire industry changed like that. Suddenly, I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, I've got all this money that I owe. I've got this CFI, but nobody hiring, so I don't really have a job. So what do I do now? I got to find a backup plan. So what's my backup plan? Well, I love my class at San Jose State in human factors. So this is really cool stuff. Love learning about the way pilots think about things, how they interact with machines, and just the psychology about it. So started pursuing a secondary career factors. Eventually that turned into a master's degree from San Jose State in human factors and ergonomics. But what that allowed me to do is work something that was aviation related so that when the time came, I'd be ready. But I would still stay in the career, making money. Any chance I got, I was flight instructing with Flying 20, rounding up friends. Anybody that wants to go take a bay tour, hey, let's share costs. We'll go fly around. I'll get the hour and a half, 2 hours of flight time. They had a nice tour, just something unique for non-pilots to do, but something for me. It was a great opportunity to get some flight time. I would recommend networking as well, finding out somebody that's got an airplane. There was a guy who owned an airplane. He was an older gentleman, couldn't get his medical. He had an airplane, he wanted to fly, he just needed somebody to fly with that was certified. So linked up with him, we fly back down to Southern California quite a bit, anything to build flight time. In 2006, I finally got my opportunity. Well, I could back up just a little bit. I decided, no, I'm going to make this career in aviation something work. I love human factors, but I really want to fly. That's where my heart is. So looking around for any job that was there, the multi-engine time was a big thing. I don't know what even requirements are now, but back then it was 100 hours. 100 hours of multi-time was almost impossible. I mean, you would do anything to get 1 hour of multi-time.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So so I said, okay, how am I going to get this multi-time? There was a university down in Puerto Rico that was they had a flight program and looking for flight instructors. Interviewed, got the job, moved down to Puerto Rico. Life couldn't be better, right? I'm living on the beach. My goal was to get back to the Bay Area at SkyWest, but SkyWest was kind of like the premier airline, regional airline at that time. But at the same time, I was torn because I really love Puerto Rico. So American Eagle had a base down in San Juan. And so I said, all right, I'm going to fly over there, and whoever calls first. The instant I hit 1,000 hours, I had the multi-time at this point. I had 120 hours of multi-time. but I didn't have 1,000 hours of total time they were looking for. Right as soon as I got that, and again, update your resume every time. Update your application every time. I got a couple hours here, PIC hour there, whatever it was. New resume, new application. So that when I got that 1,000 hours, the phone rang. Not literally, but the email came through. And got my first job. My first airline job was with American Eagle Airlines down in San Juan, Puerto Rico, flying ATR 72s. Great flying through all through the Caribbean. It was just beautiful flying. I then transitioned over to the Embraer 145, 140 of the 135, 140, 145 license. And right as soon as I got that, I was based in Chicago. And again, my timing is just not great because in 2008, economic downturn again, everything started to collapse. And I found myself kind of the bottom end of a seniority list, thinking, man, I'm going to get furloughed, pilot term for getting laid off, whatever it is that now. I can either get furloughed or I can be a cat and land on my feet. I got this experience as a human factors engineer. I'm back to doing that. Okay, my airline career has turned back towards being an engineer again, and life happens. I got married, more commitments. I thought, maybe I'm really happy doing this human factors. I can stay in aviation. Got a job at Jeppesen, doing research because I had airline background and human factors degree, and they sent me out to Germany. So I'm living in Germany, living in Europe, having a great time, still involved in aviation. So yeah, maybe this flying thing just isn't for me. And then that little seed starts to get planted, and you get that little itch, and before you know, you're like looking in the sky. Man, that's where I want to be. I mean, I'm sitting at this desk doing cool stuff, but where I really want to be is up there. And so I said, all right, made the decision that we are going to, now I've got a family, right? I've got a wife and 2 kids at that time. And I'm thinking, I'm going to uproot all of this and move back to the States to go to work for a regional carrier who's paying a fraction, let's just say a fraction of what I'm making now. But that's where my heart's calling. And so I hadn't flown an airplane for 5 years. I've not been inside of an airplane for 5 years. But I did have airline experience. And at that time, SkyWest was like, hey, we really need people that have some kind of experience. So went back to the Flying 20. Started at the Flying 20 and said, hey, can we get going back? I just need to get current again. Jumped in the plane, got my flight review and my instrument currency, basically. And that was enough because of my background. The more you invest now in your aviation knowledge and your skill, being a CFI, I think it's invaluable. It all comes back. It's like building the base. You build your base on sand, you're not going to have too much to fall back on when you really need it. You build it something solid on rock, and that base is always going to be there for whenever you need it. So, it took 2 hours for me to get back in the swing of things. I wouldn't say I was a great pilot, but I mean, it wasn't bad. And considering I hadn't flown in 5 years, the fact that I could still do steep turns or whatever I needed to do, it all came back to me. Got hired at SkyWest. Very bold because I knew, hey, if this doesn't work out, I'm going back to engineering. Called the recruiter. I put in my application, found out who these recruiters were, called them up and said, look, I just submitted my application yesterday. I'm here in the States for about 3 weeks. If you want to interview me, you've got 3 weeks to do it. Like that. And I got an email back, I think 2 or 3 days later saying, hey, we'd like to invite you for an interview. So that worked out. Got hired at SkyWest and had the opportunity to fly with Carlo.
Sorry. He was my captain. He was cool.
We had many a good time.
Mhm.
The other thing with regional flying piece, so you're saying, all right, you've made it now into the airlines. I got hired into the Embraer 175. Very cool airplane, very automated. Then you start getting a little lazy. Those auto throttles are great. That autopilot is awesome. But when you decide that you're going to upgrade into the CRJ that has autopilot, and that's about it, and you're going to have to, remember on the twin, if you don't sync those props, you get that wah, 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 wah. You get that in the CRJ. You've got to basically, in essence, sync the props. And so, yeah, that I let myself get lazy in the ERJ, and it hurt me going into the CRJ. So don't get lazy. These guys are telling you, make it hard for yourself. Go out, go do these approaches. Go follow that IFR flight plan. You challenge yourself to become better and better. 4.5 years at SkyWest, somewhere right in the middle when I decide I'm going to, as fast as I can, take the first upgrade I can, which was to the CRJ. 2020 comes around, and COVID just shuts down the whole world. And I think, great, here we go again. Survived 9/11, survived 2008. 2020 comes along. All right, got to survive. Almost needed to get out of the industry again because I just couldn't afford to feed a family. Now I've got a family of 5 of us, 3 kids now. And so I almost had to make the tough decision to get out, go back into human factors. But luckily I found a part-time job reviewing ASRS reports, which I still have that job, my second job right now. And that was just enough to keep me above water. I could survive. And then it was build up EIC time, man time as captain, as quick as I can to get to the majors. It's just the interview process. I definitely don't want to go through that again, but it's just something you have to do. Yes, sir.
You still working at ASRS?
I am not working at ASRS. I used to do that. That was my college job. I did go back to ASRS and work there right after 9/11 time frame. But now I work for a third-party company who takes that data, that public data, and then analyze that from a human factors point of view.
Yeah, I just got them there just a few months ago. But yeah, I worked there during Sounds Like as well. So.
Yep.
Worked there 5 years, but it's a good job.
Yep. Yeah. Great experience. And I wouldn't even have guessed that led me into having still a job tied in with aviation safety reporting system. So, yeah, that interview process and all that stuff, it's just something you have to do. It's the game you have to play, but you've got to think of that end goal. What's that goal? I want to be at United Airlines. That's what I always wanted to do. But I wasn't going to turn down another opportunity. Got initially hired at Alaska Airlines. And I said, all right, well, let's go to Alaska. But that nagging still, part of me always wanted to go to United. I mean, that's where I grew up. I grew up with United. My dad is retired as a engineer there at United Airlines in San Francisco. So I grew up as a United Airlines brat. And I'm thinking, when is United Airlines going to call? When are they going to call? What else can I do to differentiate myself from all the thousands of other candidates? We all have about the same amount of flight time. I'm volunteering for Latino Pilots Association. I'm volunteering for stuff with the kids. Anything that I can do. You also want to make sure that when you're volunteering, it's not just to check that box. You got to have something else. You got to have a piece of you inside of that. That's why I'm still here with the Pilots Association. I've gotten to where I need to get to, but I'm still here because I want you guys to get here with me and have a passion for something. I volunteered a lot for Wings for Autism, which look that up. It's a really awesome program. I had a passion for that, so that when I interviewed, I could talk and my eyes just lit up. And I hope that came across as genuine because it really was genuine for me. So find something and make it your own and really invest in that. It becomes your story. It becomes who you are as well. Got hired in 2022 at United Airlines. Dream come true. It only took 23, 24 years to get there, but I made it. And I'm so happy. For me, the flying is great, but it's living that pilot life, which I always wanted to do, and sharing that enthusiasm and that excitement. I walk down the terminal and I'm high-fiving little kids who are going down. I see people like taking a picture, and I poke in there and like I photobomb their selfie or whatever. But I think people love that, and I love that. I just love interacting with the public. We are customer service industry, first and foremost. Well, first and foremost, we're the safety industry, but it's customer service. That's what keeps us employed. So I try to interact and I try to make people appreciate and show them that I appreciate them choosing my airline and not somebody else. So that's my story. More than happy to share anything that you guys want to talk about. If you have ever known a pilot, they love talking about flying. So.
Well, I have a question for you, actually. Like, how do you like going international, like flying a wide body?
Okay, I always dreamed about flying international, and I really had to resist that 777 that was on the when you first started United, the very first day. They ranked you by its age now. It used to be random based on your social security number, the last four, but now it's age. So the oldest can choose what airplane they want. They've got a list of all the airplanes and all the bases that are available to the class. The oldest gets to choose. And because it took me 20 plus years to get there, I was relatively senior already.
Yeah.
So that 777 was available as a new hire. And man, I really wanted it. I wanted it bad. But I resisted because I knew the most important thing was don't get lazy. Go into that 737, learn how to fly that airplane, learn about all, pneumatics and it's busy. But I decided, I can't resist anymore. I flew a year on the 737, transitioned over to the 777. It's a whole different style of flying. As most of the pilots know, if you have regional pilots, if you have a 3-leg day, it's a good day. We have a 1-leg day every day, every time. I fly out there, I spend 24 hours in whatever city, and I fly back. And I get a mini vacation every week. 1 day at a time, but every week I get Tokyo, China. We go to mostly Asia. I prefer to go to Asia, but we go all over Europe as well. And it's just it's a different style of flying. I'm usually what they consider the bunkie, which is the relief officer, because my seniority is really low. 2 years and already being able to be in the international operations is very unique for this industry. But things moving forward, and I love it.
Oh, that's
When was
awesome.
the last time you landed the 777?
Good question. I think I have 10 landings now on the 777, and I've been on the plane for a year and a half. I got just over 1,000 hours in the 777, and I have about 10 landings. I got 2 landings in September, and that's like, for me, it's unheard of. Yeah. Yeah, lots of landing spots. You hear about this. This is the other thing. You hear about, you're going to get 3 takeoff and landings in 90 days. Well, yeah, I don't get 3 takeoff and landings in 90 days. I have to go back to the simulator and do my training and my landings in the simulator. So, yeah.
That's exciting, man.
Yes, sir.
You guys have like a retirement plan, after you put so many years as a pilot or working?
Yes. So I would say there's a lot of reasons why people want to be pilots. Most people have always had a childhood dream of wanting to be around airplanes, which is great. But when you get to the major level, the compensation for that dream is just, it's unheard of. And I tell people our retirement plan at United Airlines, which is a new contract, I'm going to be very soon getting 18% of my salary put into a retirement account. And they're like, no, you got your math wrong. I mean, you put in, 18%, but the company gives you 2% or 3%, whatever corporate does. I said, no, you don't understand. They are putting in 18% of my salary into that retirement. So yes, it's very lucrative, pay-wise, retirement benefits, life benefits. It's a great job. Yeah. But it's funny, we work so hard. Every hour we can just scrap together to fly. And you get to the major airline, and then you work really hard to not fly.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that happens, but still, like I said, still enjoy it. Yes, sir.
Do you have a divestment period on that?
Nope. Your first day, boom. First day goes in there, it's yours forever.
Most are like that.
It's nice, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I hope that we could share a little bit of this information to you. They've got a lot more recent experience and more applicable to where you guys are mostly, I think, right now. But just know there is a path, and eventually that path will lead to where I'm sitting right here. And hopefully it also leads to you sitting right here and talking to the next generation.
I think your story is very important because, it shows that aviation is always changing, right? You've seen him. He started in the 90s, went through 2008 recession, and then went through COVID and all that. At the end, we just got to stay optimistic and keep moving forward. There's always something that you can do throughout that time to make yourself better and your application better if your dream is to be an airline pilot. And I'll tell you, man, if I had a chance to choose a different career, I wouldn't, because I had the best views ever. Like, I'll never change anything about it. I love flying there. And my first flight was getting out of Fort Lauderdale and going into St. Croix in U.S. Virgin Islands. It kind of brought tears to my eyes, knowing that I was flying a jet finally. That's been my dream as a kid. And as soon as we lined up on the runway, he said, "You have control." And I put that throttle to full throttle, and I felt like myself getting thrown back. You're flying, and then when you're in the air, you're like, I'm flying a jet. Yeah, and the approach was beautiful going into the U.S. Virgin Islands, beautiful water on the Caribbean, and I'm just seeing the runway, and I'm kind of getting worried about my landing. Was everyone going to think about this, right? But I ended up just getting it nice and in on the runway, but it was very emotional, man. And keep doing what you're doing and keep working towards it. It's totally worth it. Once you guys get there, it's not just about flying, man. You're going to notice that you're going to find yourself happy to be doing what you love every day. So just keep working towards that. Anything else?
No, just hanging there, and then just trust that every single little effort that you put in will pay back. And then hopefully once that you have a little bit of success, then come back and then put in more work to these organizations. And then we're still trying to go to our end goal, but we're putting in this time trying to give back. And then I still teach in the fly school. I teach out of Nice Air. I have a lot of familiar faces here. And then people ask me, how can you do two jobs, two demanding jobs, without just calling sick or whatever, giving up? And it's just, I love to do this. I love to do this. I love to do more for my company. I love to do more for the organization that means a lot to me. And then I just want to give back, just like a lot of us do. So yeah, if there's any questions, we're happy to
answer. Yeah. So, who wants a break right now? We can take a 10-minute break, and we can come back and we'll talk more. And we can answer questions, any questions you guys have. I'll give Tal a chance to talk about her story.